All right, here we go. Havoc. Welcome back to VladTV.
What's up? What's up?
I wish we were meeting under, happier circumstances right now. Definitely very, very sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
So, we've done a lot of interviews over the years, even before there was VladTV, when I was still doing DVDs and so forth. But what I want to focus on is the Mobb Deep story, which I think is very important.
Yeah,
So, you grew up in Queensbridge.
definitely, no doubt.
What was it like growing up in Queensbridge in the 80s?
I mean, growing up in Queensbridge in the '80s was like I guess any other, projects in New York. Only that Queensbridge was probably like the biggest one of them all. Um, you know, drugs, shootings, killings, stabbings, and just shit of that nature.
Like before you got into music, how involved were you in all that? Or were you just mostly kind of to yourself?
Involved in like what exactly?
And all the street shit and
Oh,
the violence, the drugs, the crime.
I mean, for the most part, I was pretty neutral. I tried my hand at a few things. You know what I mean? But I just realized that none of that shit was for me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I tried to sell my little drugs and carry a few guns, but I just seen the way a lot of my friends was getting locked up and some of them killed, and that's something that I didn't really see for myself.
Yeah, that was definitely a good move for you at that point.
I mean, for sure, you know what I mean. For the most part, I was a pretty well-rounded kid, smart. You know what I'm saying? Influenced by my surroundings to a certain degree. You know?
Yeah. Now your dad was actually a DJ.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that what kind of got you into the music thing?
I mean, it definitely was a big influence on me, my father being a DJ, because just constantly hearing music all the time, like, in my sleep, going, while we sleeping, me and my brother and sister, my father just DJing all night long. So that definitely was a big influence.
So at what point did you start looking at music and hip hop as something that you could actually do yourself?
Um, Around the time when I was about like maybe 12 or 13, watching like music video box and stuff like that. So I used to just watch, Run DMC and Salt and Pepper, LL, all of them just doing their thing. And not to mention Marley Marl being from around my way, you know what I mean? So like ever since I can remember, that was even a bigger influence that somebody from actually where I lived like made it big. Like, and he was just looked at as like a god, you know what I mean? I mean, at least in the eyes of us little kids, you know what I mean? Marley coming through, Shan with his two different pairs of Pumas and all of that. And, I remember seeing, Biz coming through, just all these different artists. So, yeah, when I was like around 12, 13 is when I actually was like, you know what? I think I could do this shit. You know what I mean? I didn't know the first thing about writing or anything like that, but I just tried my hand at it.
Okay. So did you start doing it on your own or when you met Prodigy?
No, I started doing it on my own at first, and this is like before I even met Prodigy. You know what I mean? So I didn't really even had an idea that I would end up in a rap group. It was just something I was doing on my own because I wanted to be a rapper.
Okay. So what was your first rap name?
My first rap name was the first rap name that I have now. It's Havoc. It always was Havoc. It wasn't nothing. Matter of fact, I'm lying. I just went by my real name, Kiwan. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't even make up a rap name for myself. You know what I mean? It was just my real name.
Okay. So you start rapping 12 or 13 and you're like writing down your rhymes. Are you laying anything down? Because this is not 2017 when everyone has a laptop and they
Right.
could record. Like you actually needed studio equipment to actually record something back then.
Right. So at that point, it was just writing everything down in the notebook. You know what I mean? And just saying it, memorizing it, you know, spitting it for your friends and stuff like that. It was no way in hell that I had a chance to record it or hear myself record it. It was just all in the notebook.
Okay, so when did you and Prodigy hook up?
Me and Prodigy hooked up in like 1989 in the High School of Art and Design. I'm pretty sure a lot of people are aware of it because we told the story a lot of times. We hooked up in the High School of Art and Design, which is in Manhattan on 57th Street, 2nd Avenue.
Okay, and was Prodigy, did he have the rap name back then, or was he someone else?
Nah, he was definitely somebody else. He was, we used to call him, first the school called him Pee Wee, but his first rap name was the Golden Child, because he looked like the Golden Child, you know what I mean? He was golden.
Right, was the Eddie Murphy movie out during that time?
I'm sure it was. I'm sure it probably was. That's where he probably got the name from, the Golden Child.
Right, okay. So you guys met, at what point did you start to decide that you guys might actually form a rap group?
Well, Prodigy already had like some kind of situation going on with Jive Records, like a demo deal or something like that. But me and him started becoming so much of good friends that he actually kind of vacated that deal with Jive in order to form a group with me. You know what I mean? That's how much of good friends we had become, you know, because we just was on the same page. And it was like, yo, man, we should do this together. So he like kind of left that job situation alone, which would have been a very dope situation for him. You know what I mean? It was like major, like, you know, we only like, he was 14, I'm 15, like who gets a deal at that time? And he did a song with High Five, which was a R&B group at the time. And like, you know, the sky was the limit for him at that moment right there. Yeah, and it ended up on the soundtrack of some movie. It might have been Boys in the Hood. The song was called Too Young or something like that.
Right, and at the time, like let me think, Jive Records had like Boogie Down Productions.
Right.
A Tribe Called Quest, were they on Jive at that time?
Yep. I believe
Yeah, so they're like a hip hop powerhouse.
Yeah, they was. And like I said, he didn't even, he vacated the situation, you know, based on me and his new friendship. So, I mean, he could have had it good, you know what I mean? It was no looking back, you know what I mean? But he saw something in us like I saw, and he was like, fuck that deal. Like, let's get busy.
Wow, that's crazy.
That was P.
So back then, you guys weren't Mobb Deep. You had a different name.
Nah, we wasn't Mobb Deep yet at this point. We was the Poetical Prophets.
Okay, so why the name the Poetical Prophets?
I mean, you know, back then it was like, you know, a little bit of that, you know, conscious rap was still hanging around, you know what I mean? So we was gravitating towards like kind of what was at the moment in at the time. So, you know, he's like Poetical Prophets, you know what I mean? Whatever, blah, blah, blah. And we kind of ran with that name.
So you guys hook up, you're now the Poetical Prophets.
Right.
And I heard that you guys actually used to write for each other.
Yeah, pretty much, you know what I mean? You know, I used to write a little bit for him. You know, later on he would write some things for me. You know, it wasn't really a big deal. You know what I'm saying? We was in a group, so it was like whatever.
Okay, so you guys hooked up as a group. Now you're living in Queensbridge.
Yeah.
But he's living in Long Island, right?
Yeah.
And he would come to Queensbridge and hang out with you, or what would happen?
Yeah. I would go hang out with him in Long Island, you know what I'm saying, a lot. And he would come hang with me in Queensbridge a lot. So it worked both ways. Like he already had, you know, a little crew in Hempstead that I got really acquainted with, really good friends with at the time. And when he came to Queensbridge, he gained some friends, you know what I mean? Like, so we was in between both places, and then everything almost all came together, like, you know what I mean?
Okay. Now you're in Queensbridge, so you're in that environment of the projects, you know, but you're essentially, like you said before, not really trying to get into and mixed up in all that criminal shit. Prodigy at the time, where was he in his life?
He wasn't really, on any criminal shit that I could remember. You know what I mean? He was basically like in the same boat with me. Our mind was on music. You know what I mean? But he had a thing for carrying guns and shit. Like that was his thing. He liked to do that. So, he wanted to protect himself. So, that's one thing I could say. If it was any kind of element, that was one of them. He was good for that.
Was there a particular situation that caused Prodigy to carry a gun all the time?
Nah, it was just that he was just on some shit where, like, it was what it was. You know what I mean? We hang around the wolves, so he was like, just in case, this is how he moving.
Yeah. Because I remember Puffy said that you guys used to stop by his office after school and you guys would always have guns on you.
Yeah, that's true. It's very true. You know what I mean? So that wasn't a misrepresentation.
Okay. Now, you guys are the Poetical Prophets, and you guys are putting together, I guess, your project at this point?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, how much music did you guys record before that first Poetical Prophets album dropped?
We recorded a lot of music because we had gotten a deal with 4th and Broadway. You know what I'm saying? But at that point, we wasn't Poetical Prophets no more. We never recorded a record, a professional record as Poetical Prophets.
Ah, okay. So by the time you guys got the 4th and Broadway deal, you guys already changed your name to Mobb Deep.
To Mobb Deep.
Okay, so why the name Mobb Deep?
Mobb Deep because that was like a saying around my way in Queensbridge, what we used to use. Like, you know what I'm saying? If we was rolling mad deep, it was a bunch of us. We'd be like, oh man, last night it was crazy. We was Mobb Deep. So, that was one of the first things that came to my mind. And the reason why we had changed it was because I remember Puffy was trying to sign us at the time. But he was like, yo, you know what I'm saying? Y'all niggas is ill and all of that, but y'all got to change your name. You know what I'm saying? So we ended up changing our name to Mobb Deep, but not even signing to Puff.
Okay, why not?
I guess because 4th and Broadway threw more money at us at the time, and we was persuaded by the older people around us, like, nah, fuck that, go grab the money, da-da-da-da, you know what I'm saying? While Puffy was like, fuck the money, look at the plaques on the wall, you know what I'm saying? Both valid arguments, you know what I mean? But we ended up going for the bread.
Right, and you were how old at the time?
16.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess in retrospect, like Bad Boy, I mean, they were already legendary back then.
Right, and Puff was legendary, period, even before, because matter of fact, I don't even think he didn't even have Bad Boy yet when he wanted to sign us.
Oh, so he was still at was it Arista?
He was still at Uptown MCA.
Uptown MCA, yeah, right.
He was like still there, you know what I mean? So this was even before Bad Boy.
Okay, did he have Biggie around him?
Nope. Not that I could remember. You know what I'm saying? When I'm thinking of the timeline in my mind, no.
Okay, so he didn't have Biggie, he didn't have Craig Mack.
I mean, he could have had them, but they wasn't out yet.
Okay, so he was still just working for Uptown at the time and trying to form his own label.
If I could remember correctly, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because this when he was promoting parties too at the same time. Like the Red Zone and all of those different places he would promote parties at.
Okay. Now, Large Professor and DJ Premier, I heard, started to kind of help you guys out early on.
Yeah, they did. And when we had first got our deal, I can remember Primo coming all the way to Long Island to fuck with us and vibe with us, you know what I mean? Like, he didn't have to do that. He could have just got a check, threw us a beat, and that was it. But he used to come to Long Island just to kick it with us and vibe with us and, you know what I mean, on some big brother shit. Like, and, that was, like, to this day, when I think about it, that was valuable.
Yeah, DJ Premier, I mean, one of the greatest hip-hop producers, period.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, and then Large Professor as well, another legendary figure.
For sure. And I had already met Large Professor before we even got a deal, hanging with Nas and them. And before Nas got on, I remember going to Large Professor crib in Left Rack with Nas and Akinelli and stuff like that. And then sometimes they used to bring, Large Professor beats and play them back in the projects at Nas crib, and the beats was mind blowing.
Yeah, no, extra P is phenomenal at what he does.